The 5 habits of people who stay happy for life. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to carry happiness with them wherever they go? Not the loud, temporary kind of happiness you see on social media, but a steady, grounded sense of contentment, the kind that stays with them through good times and bad. These people still face stress. They still experience loss, frustration, and disappointment, yet somehow they maintain a deeper sense of well-being. What's their secret? It turns out that long-lasting happiness is rarely about luck, wealth, or perfect circumstances. In fact, research on human well-being shows that happiness is largely shaped by daily habits and ways of thinking. Today, we're going to explore 5 habits that consistently appear in the lives of people who sustain happiness for decades. And the encouraging part is this: every one of these habits can be practiced by anyone. Let's begin with the first one. 1. They practice gratitude daily. One of the most consistent traits among happy people is something surprisingly simple. They practice gratitude. That doesn't mean they pretend life is perfect. Instead, they train their attention to notice what's going right. Our brains naturally focus on problems. Psychologists call this the negativity bias, a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors stay alert to danger. But in modern life, this bias can cause us to overlook the good things around us. Happy people consciously balance this tendency. They pause to appreciate a good conversation with a friend. They notice a quiet moment in the morning. They recognize opportunities that others might ignore. Over time, gratitude reshapes how the brain interprets daily life. Instead of constantly searching for what's wrong, the mind begins to notice what's working. This doesn't eliminate challenges, but it changes the emotional weight those challenges carry. And that leads directly to the second habit. 2. They invest in relationships. If you could measure only one factor that predicts long-term happiness, it would likely be this: strong relationships. Long-term studies on human well-being have repeatedly found that people who maintain close, supportive relationships tend to live happier and healthier lives. Not necessarily people with the most friends, but people with meaningful connections. Happy people prioritize time with those they care about. They call their parents. They check in on friends. They make time for family dinners or simple conversations. In a world that often prioritizes productivity, this can feel inefficient, but relationships are where emotional resilience is built. When life becomes difficult, and it always does, strong relationships provide support, perspective, and belonging. And interestingly, the happiest people also understand something important about relationships. They focus more on giving than receiving. Helping others, offering encouragement, or simply listening often creates deeper satisfaction than pursuing personal gain alone. Which brings us to the third habit. 3. They pursue purpose, not just pleasure. Many people spend years chasing pleasure, comfort, entertainment, or success. And while these things can be enjoyable, they rarely produce lasting happiness by themselves. Purpose is different. Purpose gives life direction and meaning. It's the sense that your time, your work, and your actions matter in some way beyond yourself. For some people, purpose comes through their career. For others, it appears in raising children, building a business, mentoring others, or contributing to their community. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing. It simply needs to feel meaningful. Happy people tend to ask themselves questions like, am I contributing something valuable? Am I helping someone else? Am I building something worthwhile? When life feels purposeful, even difficult days feel worthwhile. Challenges become part of a meaningful journey rather than pointless obstacles. And maintaining that energy requires something else many people overlook. The fourth habit. 4. They take care of their bodies. It's easy to think of happiness as purely emotional or psychological, but the truth is, physical health and mental well-being are deeply connected. Sleep affects mood. Exercise influences brain chemistry. Nutrition impacts energy and focus. Happy people tend to recognize this connection. They don't necessarily follow perfect routines or strict diets, but they understand that taking care of the body creates the foundation for a healthier mind. Regular movement, whether walking, exercising, or simply staying active, releases chemicals in the brain that naturally improve mood. Quality sleep restores emotional balance and mental clarity. Even simple habits like spending time outdoors can improve well-being. When the body is neglected, stress and fatigue can make life feel heavier than it really is. But when the body is cared for, the mind becomes more resilient, which leads to the final habit perhaps the most powerful of all. 5. They maintain perspective. Life will never be free from problems. Everyone faces setbacks. Careers fail. Plans change. People experience loss and disappointment. The difference between people who remain happy and those who become overwhelmed often comes down to perspective. Happy people understand that most problems are temporary. They don't see a bad day as proof that life is bad. They see it as a chapter. When something goes wrong, they ask themselves questions like, will this matter in 5 years? What can I learn from this? How can I adapt and move forward? Perspective doesn't erase pain or difficulty, but it prevents those experiences from defining an entire life. And over time, this mindset builds resilience. Instead of feeling trapped by circumstances, people who maintain perspective recognize that life is constantly evolving. Tomorrow can look very different from today. The real secret to lasting happiness. When you step back and look at these 5 habits together, something interesting becomes clear. None of them require extraordinary talent. None of them depend on wealth or fame. They are simply ways of living and thinking that gradually shape how a person experiences life. Gratitude changes what we notice. Relationships provide connection and support. Purpose gives meaning. Health builds emotional stability. Perspective creates resilience. When practiced consistently, these habits create a foundation for lasting happiness. And perhaps the most encouraging truth is this: happiness is not something reserved for a lucky few. It's something that can be built one small habit at a time. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more insights on human behavior, personal growth, and building a meaningful life. And remember, happiness isn't something you find, it's something you practice.